We're looking at the trading opportunities in the market's best momentum companies, and we look for the common factor that all of these leaders share before they turn into the market's strongest performers. That's entering what we call the launchpad. There's a list of 30 momentum leaders and 30 launchpad. Gary's been through both lists and he's here to explain the charts, the setups, the similarities, what he looks for in these leaders, and also a whole lot of lessons to pull out of this week's charts. So Gary, with that, you've said just before recording, there's a lot in this week. So how do we start this week off?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go through quickly here because I think like 9 of the first 10 there just sort of caught my eye. And then, yeah, there's just plenty happening here. Some great lessons in it. And I was just sort of saying to you, one of the things that I'll be doing actually this week from this list is cutting and pasting probably at least a half a dozen of these charts there into my Notion. Just as some great cup and handle and some great VCPs in here. So just, if we're trying to build up our knowledge of those and trade those, we want to have a lot of examples so we can reference those. So there's just some really good ones in there. But let's start from the top here. So looking at the quarterly momentum, see OSL number 1 there. So I did speak about this one there, just a sort of stock that I have owned in the past there. Has had a pretty strong run there. Good move up there. Some pretty big volumes coming in here. So this is sort of coincided with Peter Hall taking a stake there, the old Hunter Hall, and being joining the board. And then I think Pengana, which is part of Solpats, has also taken a pretty decent sort of stake as well. So yeah, good signs there for that company there. It's had a good run. It's probably run a bit hot here. I expect this to sort of probably cool and congest there, but definitely want to be putting a radar on there. Just some pretty smart, savvy people getting involved here. It's going to be around a long time, but held back over COVID. But yeah, the only negative I sort of see with this one, Chris, is a lot of shares on this year. They've done a lot of raisings and stuff there, and there's a lot of options as well. So it just, yeah, I think you'll sort of see it cool off a little bit there, and then probably a better entry kind of later on, I guess. RIM was one that we sort of talked about, a little VCP as well. So that sort of continued, the whole thing tightened up in here. Broke out a little B wave here where we're looking around that 3.2 bit small. For me, doesn't really meet my criteria, but this is a good signal here. We saw this, break out here, VCP, and it's continued to keep running there. So that's, good setup there. That's the strong move, tighten up again. That's what we're looking for. That's the sort of classic VCP setup there. Just looking for some bigger sort of stocks, bigger share prices there. BSA was pretty interesting. Chris is at number 3 on the list. Was also on the weekly list because obviously had a pretty explosive move. But again, the thing that's probably most interesting here is if you sort of when you sort of skip out there. So we saw this at a bit of a jump here. So it's a little bit erratic, but we did see, some volume there, a little bit of a pullback, some good volume again. Maybe one day of selling there, but definitely saw some good volume bars and like just a very hard to trade here, but pretty not that liquid company there. But when we're seeing those sort of stocks jump up quite a lot and then congest, you sort of see the whole thing did sort of tighten up here. So just not the easiest sort of share to trade, but it is what we're looking for. We're looking for that sort of strong, impulsive move and then the whole thing tighten up. You can see here that each correction got smaller and smaller. And the whole thing, eventually we sort of break out here. So this mightn't have been an okay signal here, just because it was a breakout with some pretty decent volume and coming out of a tight congestion. Even though it's not the best, most liquid sort of share there, it's just a pretty hard to trade sort of share. So with things like that, if you do see something like it there, I'd probably just trade a bit smaller there, those sort of ones that don't move around. But just a good lesson as to what we are sort of trying to look for as well. Now this was APX there, which has probably been in the doldrums for a while. One of our, very few AI stocks, Chris, which has sort of been quite disappointing, really, apart from that little run out of here. But the whole thing has sort of tightened up here. We do have a potential change in character here now for the stock here. So it's now sort of reported, had a positive update. It's bled a lot of money. Lost the Google contract, so the last update was positive. They just seem to be, even though they lost to Google, they've sort of started to make it up in some other areas. Just the first positive sign for this stock for quite some time here. So not out of the woods yet. Still, this stock's got a lot of overhead. So that's a long way down here. So there's a lot of losers in here. So it's going to be fighting the tape. So that's the negative for the stock. But possible change in character here now. So definitely one that I think can probably go back on the radar there. But just be mindful there that there's more than a room full of sellers there who are just itching to get out on any sort of strength there. So you just got to be careful of that. This was our little cup and handle back here. Just a little high handle here, nice and tight in there, and then broke through. And look at that move there, 120. It just kept going. So sometimes you see these, at the time now. Again, this is the lesson here, is that no one wants to be buying this at the top of the top right. So we see that, and and the whole thing tightens up in here, and then bang, then we go. And the stock doesn't look back here, so it's had a fair move, $120 to $2 there. It's up what 60-70% rally there, so pretty impulsive there, set up there. So that's the hard thing there with this trade these things, is it's that sort of top right is sort of hard to buy there, but you can see how tight it was there. So it was sort of sitting along the 10 here, and then basically sort of moved above here. So just another really good setup. One of the top stocks here, Spartan, still on the list there, Chris. Well, this has been some sort of impressive stock here, SPR. And then just even looking at the stock here now, did say this was getting a bit vertical there last week, but that's sort of really two big moves and sort of looking a bit late sort of stage here. But what have we seen here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days here. Still no selling coming in.
And those 7 days haven't even pulled back to the base of the second day of that rally.
Yeah, it's only just crossed the 10-day as well. So this has had some history on the 20. I think that's probably if you look at how this stock's traded as well, it's hugged the 20 quite a few times in the past as well. So that's a better looking, so the 20 is probably better looking one to keep an eye on there. So, but yeah, it's still not sort of showing any signs of weakness here yet. So it might congest a bit longer here, but yeah, this is still pretty robust, this stock here. So I mean, look at all those, impulsive, corrective sideways, impulsive, corrective sideways, impulsive, corrective sideways, impulsive, a little bit deeper there. First times you saw a little bit of a pullback there, but where to come back and just set on top of the previous high there as well. So that's the thing. If you learn about sort of trend structure, just sort of sitting on top and get space, and then an acceleration there. I mean, this is still pretty solid here. So this is still on the radar. You still be watching this here, even though it feels like it's gotten a bit too far here. It got a bit vertical. So far, we haven't seen too much selling come in here. So still pretty interesting. SKS, another one as well, Chris, sort of, that's SKS Technologies there. So beautiful BCP in here. Had that little, whole thing tightened up in here. And then we've sort of broken up there. So, I mean, this is another, this is one to put in Notion now. I mean, Spartan, I'll be putting Spartan in there. I'll be putting in SKS here. It's great, two great lessons there. Stocks sort of really run there. But that whole thing tightened up and just moved through here. And each pullback there has been sideways. So even so far, look at this. Stock still
high tight flag candidate right there.
Still not showing any weakness here. Look at that. This has been, the volume here has been pretty robust all the way up to the top here. And then you wouldn't even call that 1 day of selling. It's just been tight here. The volume's right up here. Stock's showing very little weakness here so far. So it's still not even showing any weakness, Chris. So just goes to show, I mean, we keep sort of showing these names. They're in here week after week after week after week. And that they look pretty extended here because they're in the top right-hand corner. But we know weeks later they're further into the right-hand corner. So the key there is just not to see any selling in the volume and see a tight sideways sort of congestion there. So that still looks pretty robust there. So nothing wrong with that. 3DP, I thought this was sort of interesting there. Only because this is sort of one that has sort of failed, and I've seen a few of them actually do this here recently. So they just have that bit of a jump there, pull back there, and then have a little rally there, ingest back here. So that's done a little VCP in there. So that looks really good. So it's basically a sort of good volume, pull back, a little bit of volumes come back in here. Probably like to see a bit more, but then it pulls back on less volume, and that's ready to sort of potentially sort of go again. But I've noticed what's happening here is that we're getting a bit of a burst and not going to a new high and then fading back. So this is happening quite a bit with quite a few names. Or maybe it's just happening to quite a few names that I'm trading there. But I've just noticed this happening quite a bit. So it sort of gets out of the blocks here, gets going, but it doesn't follow through to a new high. So if you're seeing this there, I think this is happening quite a bit. So as a result of that, I've sort of tightened up my trading as a result there. So I think I traded 3 of these 2 weeks ago, and 2 sort of failed, and 1 chopped me up and went back there, but no money lost on it, just because they all got into winning positions, and you can sort of get yourself to break even pretty quickly. But because a lot of them are failing here, I think you've got to don't sort of sit back too far. If it comes all the way back, you're going to have 3 losses there. So I think the losses are just sort of, a lot of these VCPs are sort of, there's lots of them setting up here, but quite a few failing as well. So just got to have pretty good risk management there. I think AL3 was the other one there that I saw, which is actually still on the list there. And that sort of, see how that, congested air tightened up here. So the volumes come out of it on this pullback there, and then looks like it's ready to go. So then it jumps a couple of days, couple of inside days, and then jumps again. Okay, this looks pretty good. But then the selling comes and it sort of stops again. So this is sort of something I'm just noticing quite a bit on some of these VCPs. Probably the ones that are smaller names that have probably had that big pop and then come back in. So this is still actually not too bad here. We're still staying pretty tight here, even though we had that one day, it didn't follow through. So the whole thing's tight. Now, so just might need a bit more time there. A couple of these that have sort of haven't gone on with it later, failed. They've just used up a bit more time and then come back in later on. So we shouldn't just because they don't take off straight away, we shouldn't sort of rule them out. I think a lot of them are sort of taking their time and then coming back later on. So, but just got to be, with those small ones there, you got to be tight, because each sort of 0.5% or cent sort of
big percentage movement.
Yeah. You got to trade them smaller, or just be sort of tighter there. But I thought IMB, this is this is a classic up and handle here, Chris, as well. So one to sort of cut and paste there, because again, we've had that really strong move, pretty healthy volume all the way up here, and then the whole thing dries up there. And the volume, even though it sort of comes back a reasonable amount, very little volume through here, then it starts to sort of permeate through. So it breaks above the 50, breaks above a little B wave there. Then we start to see volume come in. Well, this looks looking pretty encouraging. Then we go back up to the high, actually, go slightly above it. In the past, I didn't really like seeing new highs and then failing there, but now I know these strongest names, they'll often sort of sit under or maybe just above. So it's nothing to get concerned about. What you want to see is that tight price action, that David Ryan, that sideways orientation just under the high, or just near the high there. But see how it's stayed. If you look through there, there's no volume in there, so very little selling. So we're not seeing any selling through here at all, and the whole thing sort of stays tight, and then it pops. And again, even if you just wait for the break. So if you're waiting to break that high there, so 46.5 cents, they just say what at 47 or 48 here. I mean, it's still gone quite a bit high here. Pretty good volume through here as well. So pretty robust. I mean, it's held the 10 here so far. So yeah, but just another really good lesson there. Great cover and handle sort of set up there. IMB, and I mean the next one here is just as good here, ZIP. Now we talked about this one here, basically showing relative strength there. A few weeks ago, it was on the launch pad there, quite a few weeks ago. Had that really impulsive move off the low there, but the whole thing there, that's the big cup and handle with another sort of cup and handle and handle here. So yeah, the whole thing looks fantastic there. I mean, you saw it. It was pretty good volume too. Look at that chunky volume, that rally. Pulls back, tightens up. See good volume again. Pulls back, tightens up here. Good volume on the breakout. See look at that day there, you're breaking up here. Good volume after having good volume right through here. Things like this probably just going to probably not look back. So hasn't done that. Sort of went through there. Did see a little bit of selling here after going to a new high, but again, it just dried off. And that one big day down there, but then the next day you saw volume come in. Where did we see it come in? We saw it come in just sitting on top of the high there. So this is broken out, gone to a new high, come back for a retest, which we know is like something like this retest of the break there, Chris, that's like a 50% chance. So if you look at, we study head and shoulders and all sort of, technical patterns there, you know that most of those sort of,
throwbacks to the breakout.
Yeah, the throwback is like 1 and 2 for most of the technical patterns. So, that's why sometimes if you sort of see this and it's gone, you go, oh, I missed it. There's a 1 and 2 chance, 50% chance that's going to pull back and give you another chance to get set.
Yeah, reload.
Yeah, so if you sort of see that's gotten away from you and missed it, just keep that in mind there, because you might, give it 3 or 4 days, you might come back, retest, and then go again. So that's what it's done here. And then the whole thing sort of, after sort of breaking out, cup and handle, it's gone up here, pulled back, rallied again, tightened up, rallied here, and then we did like 3 or 4 days on its side here. I saw this, the whole thing was just tightening up in here. So now you got a VCP, you got stock showing relative strength, you've got a cup and handle, one of the strongest momentum patterns there. This is showing pretty good strength there, so it's looking pretty solid there. So just a really good lesson there. So that's another one you want to sort of cut and paste and put in your library there. So it's a good lesson as to what it looks like. LRV was a small one there, not that sexy there. Thin Dusk has had a bit of a bounce there, but again, yeah, looking probably
a hard one to trade. Yeah,
it goes on the watch list to just see what develops there, but yeah, no obvious sort of patterns there to trade there. MAU is sort of again, this stock's had a pretty strong run, and then sort of traded sort of sideways there, for quite a period of time. So, look at the weekly there. You can sort of see that was sort of, reasonably impulsive there. Not the juicy big volume that you'd like to see, but then the whole thing just tightened up in here. And then we then we started to see volume started to come in here late in the move here after it sort of started to build here. So that ended up being a pretty good setup there. Just keep seeing high lows in there. So they see this sort of this sideways orientation where it's just sort of, shrinking the range is tightening up here under the highs. You sort of what you're looking for is you're looking for a little bit of a trigger there. If you delve into the volume here, there should be a few takeaways there. So should basically show some big bursts and even a few highs. Like, if you look to study Wyckoff there, Wyckoff talks about it, we haven't got exuberant maybe near the high, but I'll actually get a bit of push. And even the last, it can even go up there. And sometimes you sort of see that last day up, big volume. And then that's the killer. That sort of stops the trend. But that shows that people are sort of getting enthused about it. It just then has a breather again. It might have another surge again, big volume again, and then it fizzes out. Then you see a few, the volume come back in again. So you sort of should see those bursts of volume there, but it might take a while to eventually crack it. And then at some point you'll come out of here. So you're looking for a bit of a break. So you started to see a bit more robust volume in here. So again, it's had the run, come back for the throwback, come right back to the breakout zone, and then you get a little VCP, a little tightening up under the high here. Still no selling going on the rest as well. Very little selling in here. So again, just another good lesson. Cut and paste that one, put it in your library as well. That's what we're sort of trying to identify. SDV, we talked about this one. There was our pretty strong surge there. ABC, VCP tightens up in there. And then we get a breakout there, and we get a breakout. Good volume as well, almost the day before we break out, and we push through. Now it's had a bit of a rally. So nice. So these are rallying. This is rallying impulsive, and this is coming back corrective and corrective. And so far, this is corrective as well. So I mean, this is really, really, that's just sideways orientation and no selling, no volume going on. The first day, bang. So when you see that first day strong, coming through here again, that's a pretty good sign here. So this still looks pretty robust to me, STB. So again, just another really good setup there. SGLLV, check this one actually, but yeah, a bit of a VCP in here. There's probably a nice little triangle in here. So had gone to a near high, some pretty good volume in there. A bit messy though. I mean, you can sort of argue this is a VCP in here, but hard to trade. But then you started to see some volume coming in. Oh, this looks pretty interesting. Does have a pretty deep pullback. Okay, maybe not. But then it rallies up again, tightens up, rallies, tightens, and then the whole thing in here just really tightens up. And this is what Calamagi's looking for, that tight price action, coil, and then at some stage there, this day here has a bit of a jump out of the range there. Even though it finishes back in the, kind of where it started, did sort of permeate, come out there. So that looked pretty good on those sort of days there. I mean, you can see that that pullback there as well. I mean, that's the tell. If you can learn to sort of see that coil tightens up, that almost at the last day there'll be no volume there. So it's almost like a little doji, like a little non-bar, and then no volume as well. That's your tell here. That's something that you could be on, and then you're looking for some evidence that some volume can't come in. That's where you might be able to drill into your alleys and stuff there, maybe try and fine tune your trade, your entry, your stop. You might get chopped up going in smaller time frames there, but that's still pretty decent there. Irish there was one we spoke about previously. Again, just this one here, nice VCP, whole thing tightened up in here and exploded out of here. And so I did see this, I was watching this. I just thought it was going to break down because I just didn't get like the company. So I was surprised to sort of see this one kick out of the range here. But again, it's just that, if we let our biases get in the road, we get it away. Get it away in the trading end. But look, saying that, there's been plenty of other patterns as well. So I've been some pretty good DCPs and good cup and handles out there. So been no sort of shortage of trades, in my opinion. So CU6, again, one of those ones that's been on the list for a long time. We sort of saw this sort of this break here, obviously break to a new high, this little congestion, and then the breakout there. Did see another one in here, Chris. This is probably more interesting as well. Even though you might, if you miss this one here, sort of breaking to the 52-week high and pretty strong volumes. There's the little Davis box break there, but strong stock, sideways orientation, and then explodes for the top here. Again, people just have a hard time
buying expensive stuff.
Well, it's had a strong run. Look on the chart and go, this has gone from $1 to $3. It's already doubled in value. I've missed it. Run too far. Mate, I'll look elsewhere. And what is this thing breaks through the top side here? Pretty good volume too. I mean, that's killer. That gave a good volume bar actually back above the 50. It should have been back on your radar. Breaks out the next day and pretty big volume. It's like, wow, that's pretty robust. So we go from,
280.
We go from $283 there. And it goes on a pretty strong run here. It doesn't mean it hugs the whole, and we just use the 10 there. That was if you're using the 10-day VBA. Once we closed here, I think, maybe this day under the 10 here. It's at 503 or something. You might have been tightened up in here or something, but yeah, still a fantastic move there. It does pull back in here. This is pretty interesting because it does pull back. And there wasn't much volume through there until the day of the low. So you can say, that's a down day. It is a down day, but that's come in at a low and recovered. That's like, well, the first time we see any volume was actually to see the stock recover and bounce again. It goes back up again. The whole thing tightens up again. So therefore we get this is when I get our VCP in here again. So again, that's the David Ryan saying tight under the high, and then we break out of here. And it's not, it took its time here as well, so it took a little while to get going here, but again, just sort of, this is hugged with 10 on the first run, it's hugged with 10 on the next run, probably hugged it previously as well, so it's funny, these stocks have got certain personalities there, but it's still pretty robust there. It's not showing too much weakness here. So it's just amazing these leaders that sort of keep going there. MME, thought this was sort of interesting there. Just sort of the sector is pretty robust at the moment. So some of those sort of, obviously the financials have been pretty strong, but sort of second tier, smaller financials are sort of definitely shining through. That's had a bit of a move there, bit of liquid there. SGR, this one I did notice actually did tighten up to the VCP, but it did break out there, but it was just sort of stopped that I just, with all the headaches that it's had there, I think it's going to have a few issues, but again, that's my bias. But it has broken out so far. Is talk of one of the Vegas casinos maybe having a sniff there. So look, maybe there's something going on there, but yeah, sort of one that for me, sort of just didn't make my sort of filters there. Polynova was sort of one that I did trade there. We did have that, beautiful cup and handle there. Nice little go back up to the high, nice little tight handle, not too much selling in there. And then we popped out of here and I thought this looked pretty good. But it did whip back pretty fast. I sort of don't, if I get a good entry there, I don't like to sort of give it up there. So I thought this should have gone on with it. When I had that day there was a bit of selling in there. I thought, well, I need to tighten up in here. And it did come back, did bounce again, but then the next day it's any low. So I would have been potentially got chopped up a few times. So for me, no damage done for me. I think might have been a tiny, 2 or 3 cent gain or something in there. But yeah, so you either, give yourself plenty of room, which I don't like to do that. I don't like to take big losses. But just play the trading. Sometimes they get a bit loose there. We prefer to sort of see them a bit tighter. But yeah, still looks pretty good. There's some pretty good volume bars in there, Chris. Some pretty heavy other rallies there. We're seeing some heavy bars there. So yeah, still looks okay.
Nice.
T&E, I think, might be one of the last ones there. I mean, geez, look how strong that stock's been. It's been one of the leaders there for a while. And, just didn't really give much away. It's probably not the classic sort of pattern there. Get a little ABC there, maybe a little breakout from there. You can maybe argue this is a little VCP in here when it's sort of ABC and there, maybe tightened up in here and then broke through. But yeah, it just doesn't sort of give much away here. Really, just it stays pretty tight, pretty robust. So yeah, pretty solid. But that's pretty much it there. I think the last one there, IFL, was just in that financial sector as well. But yeah, it's probably
That's a very busy quarterly momentum list, as you said.
Yeah,
a lot of lessons.
Oh, there's probably about 8 or 10 charts in there. I'll definitely go through that list and cut and paste into my Notion library there.
So that's like your blueprint. When you want to look at a VCP and a textbook VCP, you've got a whole library of screenshots you've taken of charts that you use as reference points when you're about to place a trade, is it?
Yeah. So I mean, like the Spartan and the SKS, and I think the even the Zip there's just some great setups in there as well. Because like every VCP, every sort of cup and handle might vary slightly, but there's certain parameters that you're looking for. So I would actually learn the parameters. So like, what? So I think I sent you the IBD cup and handle.
Down handle.
Yeah. Which basically sort of what they're looking for in terms of, the sort of drive they're looking for, the pullback, the percentages and stuff there. So just learn the sort of the rules around those patterns. And then you're looking for this, then if you start sort of getting, a library, say you get, half a dozen, say you get a dozen or you get, say, 2 dozen cup and handles in your library, and you can go through and actually sort of like, okay, this is what we want to see. So then you've got sort of like, we get sort of 20 or 30 different really good setups there you can look at. Then if you're sort of seeing something developing, you can kind of like, well, that's looking pretty similar to this one, or it's sort of the same characteristics, or it's remaining tight, it's not selling like the others, or Well, if you see sort of selling coming, you go, oh, all the ones that succeeded had light selling, and this one's got a bit of heavier selling. Well, maybe I'll let that one go. It's not quite the ideal sort of setup there. So you'll see similarities there. I mean, this is what I know sort of Kalamagi and even Minoveni there, they talk about they talk about these model books. If you don't have any model books, then you're trading momentum stocks, so you're not doing it right. So you should try and get a hold of How to Make Money in Stocks. William O'Neill's got the model books within his books. I think, Trade Align got all the model books. You and I we talk about trying to put a model book together for Australian stocks, so we'll try and do that. That'd be good, useful for us. We did the Mag 8, but we might do some ebooks up as well, sort of try and put things together there. Because it's really good to learn what characteristics and what setups, and this is what all the great traders are doing. They are looking at the biggest winners of the past, studying them in detail, and then finding out what works. And you tell the cup and handle. That's the one thing, and that's my next 12 months is to master that pattern. That's my sort of trading goal I've set myself. So I've got to build my library up, cup and hands. I've got to read up about more cup and handle. That's why I sort of sent you the cup and handle thing the other day. So just trying to fine tune that, because you look through most of the strongest stocks, so we see that pattern maybe 50, 60% of the time, Chris, in the strongest names.
Yep.
So I see it over and over again there too. So even like there's subtleties in there, but that's what we got to learn there. So yeah.
Well, that's definitely probably a point to save a comment-wise. Those who are watching and viewing, if you want to see an Australian model book, put some comments below. Let us know the interest behind it, and maybe that can motivate Gary and I to allocate some time to building that. But still, we have the Launchpad. You've mentioned a fair few of the momentum leaders that you've just talked about. They were on the Launchpad in the last couple of weeks or months and so. As you look at this week's Launchpad, are there any themes or anything sticking out to you apart from the quarterly momentum list being extremely busy? Is there anything standing out?
There's some of the smaller names in there, so definitely seeing quite a few more small caps float in there. We have seen, I guess, a mix of sectors really. I mean, I noticed in the quarterly there, like a lot of financials, smaller financials in there as well, and then there was a couple like Judo. There was a couple of financials in one of the sort of smaller, financials in the list there. But I thought it was a pretty mixed sort of list there. I don't know, was there anything? I mean, you got things from Clearview and Civic Smiles and Judo. I just thought it was a real mix in the list there.
Yeah, the battery. In the top 30, it was a bit of a real mix. But if I look into the top 200, which is another report you and I look at occasionally, the breakdown, there's a large number. There's 8 uranium constituents in the top 200 and a few battery related companies, but that's further down outside of this 30 that the viewers won't be able to see. So when you're looking for the charts, are there any charts that stood out to you in this Launchpad top 30?
The number one there obviously was Appen, we covered previously there, just because it's had a bit of a bounce there, pretty strong volume. So I thought that was sort of interesting there, just probably change the character for the stock. So, maybe you can do something like Zip. So obviously Zip's got a lot of selling there, but then sort of took a while to build there. So maybe over time it can build there. Number 2 there was sort of ZEO Tech, bit small, not very well traded so far. Bit of a VCP, but too small for me. BSA, I think, was sort of down the list there. That was the one that sort of definitely had that little pop there and run out quite nicely.
Big week, yeah.
Yeah. Credit Corp sort of won there. CCP has probably changed the character here. Has had that sort of, I thought was sort of building a few sort of high lows, and had broken above the 50. So you can sort of see this stock here, quite nice sort of trending now. Again, we talk about some stocks have got, the strongest names here, they stay above the 10. The ones that are sort of probably more modest stay above the 20. But then there's sort of certain characteristics you'll sort of see in terms of once they break out there. So I watched Stan Weinstein's video from last weekend. He got interviewed by Trader Line there, so it's free there. So it's actually really interesting there. Take a watch Sam Weinstein. He's a legend.
Well, a great book and the best cover of any trading book I've ever seen. The haircut just.
But he was just showing because he used the 200. Actually, I haven't got the 200 on here, but I've actually added the 200 moving average to my other screens here now. Just after watching that Stan video, because I sort of see that because he really just looks for that the break at the 200-day moving average. He looks for sort of something strong and impulsive, and just showing stock up, it's had that explosive gap up break to the 200, and just saying break the 200 and just keep going.
Yeah,
it's over again. It's just look at the charts, but worth a watch. But I just noticed that.
Well, as you mentioned the 200, I remember reading Stan Weinstein's book, and I did exactly the same thing. I applied the 200-day moving average, and for years, the analysis I was looking at, a lot of the setups, if they happened under the 200-day moving average and the initial spurt didn't push through it, the amount of times that I just found it failed at the 200-day, would reconsolidate, would reload, and then would give you a completely new setup, and then that would be the start of the new run. It was jaw-dropping, the amount of the statistics behind how many times it actually, that 200-day moving average was just the handbrake, and it wouldn't let it surge through. But
yeah,
digressing, you're talking.
I haven't sort of moved that radically yet, but I have been moving towards the 50 moving average. So, really, I've sort of found most of my losers come in from entering below the 50-day moving average. So even I get my false breaks occasionally and things like that, but I really want to see tight price action, and false break there, good one, sort of strong volume there, sort of, and only in that sort of top 200 or 300 names. Yeah, anything outside of that, I don't really want to trade there, but still get a few failures in there. But most of the winners there, like, the VCPs and the congestions and the coils and stuff there, if they're all coming in above the 50 and it's been trending up for a bit, the amount of losers in there is just so much smaller than that. So even buying, the VCPs above the 50 as well, that's, I'd hazard to think, I almost sort of suggest that the odds are, probably 2 to 1 in favour.
Yeah.
If above the 50, then below the 50, so yeah, things like that are really important there. So, but I thought CCP was pretty interesting there, just because it sort of had, this is used up a bit of time. So look, that's sort of like 1 to 2.5 months, and sort of 1 to 2.5 months down there, and it hasn't gone to a new low. So that's sort of, in terms of, I know McLaren has to sort of talk about time up and time down there. So you sort of see the same amount of time and it hasn't gone to a new low. So that's basically, because this had been trending down for quite a while, CCP. So it's been in a pretty nasty downtrend. I mean, we just got lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. Still got lower highs, but this is the first time here that actually the stock hasn't gone to a new low in the same amount of time or less. Because normally you just roll off very quickly. This has rolled off here, but then it's just hasn't got going, and then the whole thing's just been ended here. So change of character in this stock here, bit of a burst, and I think it was the case of the stock. Everyone was expecting the worst, and it wasn't too bad. It was actually quite a bit better than everyone expected. So get a fundamental, shift and change here for the stock there. Been a pretty well managed company in the past, CCP. Obviously, just factor all the free money out there, not such, not too many sort of bad debts. Yeah? But bad debts are starting to rise again. That should be sort of healthy for these guys. So bit of a change in character for this one. So this one's pretty interesting there, because it's sort of got a few high lows in there. Now above the 50, I pull back in there and then jumped it. So probably just looking for this to sort of settle back down again. Ideally, came back and set on top of the previous high. Something like that might be interesting. But yeah, definitely got to change character in that stock. DVP, did notice this one here. Just made a bit of a false break there. Chris went down there for 1 day, new low. Seen a lot of 1 cent false breaks here recently. Some of them fail, but seems a lot of them just come back 1 or 2 cents below the old low and reverse there. Not great volume in here, but a bit of a lightly traded stock here. But just interesting, we got a false break at the low. SMI, I thought this one was pretty interesting there. just because you got a bit of VCP, you got a pretty strong run up here, and the whole thing's sort of starting to tighten up here. So you can argue this each pullback has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller here. This is probably the first time here you've got like a little bit of a B wave break here, just above that. It has had a bit of a run, a bit of a pullback there, but just so far still on top of the 50. Some of the volume's okay here on the way up here. Just, yeah, it's this one sort of building, yeah, so definitely one to keep on the radar there. But that's often how they sort of set up there. Pretty strong rally, sideways orientation, and just start building again. So I thought that looked reasonable. Now, CKA, this was actually a bit of load. SLH there, got a little bit of VCP in here. It is a downtrending stock, it's a bit negative, but the whole thing did sort of congest there. Did see a few volume, some bigger volume down days there, but then the whole thing, you got a little tight VCP and a little bit of a breakout here.
And what was it doing with the 50-day moving average? It looked like it was conforming until just before the breakout.
Yeah, so just broken out there. So that's not bad if you sort of, this probably does meet even though it's a downtrend there, I could probably prefer to see it running up here. It does sort of, meet our minimum requirements there, sort of being above the 50, and then sort of breaking out there. So it's not too bad. There's actually a little bit of move there, a bit of volume there. Often worth looking at the longer term chart there. So that is pretty interesting there. Could be, we've now sort of got a, breaking a swing high on the weekly as well, which is interesting. Not particularly great volume here, but it's not a particularly great volume trading stock as well. So yeah, just might have a change of character in that one as well. So I thought that was sort of interesting as well. So I thought that was pretty solid. Definitely one to sort of keep an eye on here. AMA, another VCP, but still in a bit of a downtrend there. Just starting to see a bit of volume down here, Chris. I don't know if this is distribution coming in here or not, but pretty light off the floor here. Maybe a little bit of volume down here, but nothing like the last rally here where we had some pretty decent volume. It's really meandered back here. Still got a pretty nasty downtrend there, so that's probably just one to watch there. Time being there. Judo, all those financial names there. Look like a bit of a rectangle here, bit of a VCP and head tightening up, and then looks like it might have actually broken out there, but we've got a bit of a false break here so far, so hasn't sort of followed on there. So just be worth just watching this one here, see if it doesn't sort of tighten up in here. But yeah, just a little bit of a failure there so far. But so that sector has been pretty buoyant, so can't rule it out just yet. Oh yeah, I mean, look, I think reason I feature this one, Chris, is I think this was a leader of the past, and it's a good lesson there because it's a bit like Tesla, is that the leader in one bull market is highly likely not to be the leader in the next bull market. That's sort of something that we sort of learn with a lot of names. There should be a new name. A new name should stand up here. So this is one sort of people probably get attracted to coming back into there. So I still think it's a reasonable company there, but I think this thing traded pretty high, got ahead of itself, traded on some pretty high growth and some pretty high multiples just because it had great growth. And then obviously we had, after sort of COVID there, we had a few immigration issues, and that's sort of, bit of negative.
Down a bit.
Yeah, been a negative for sort of foreign students there who use who come in and use this sort of services there. So has come look, probably one just to keep an eye on that, because it has been a leader. Sometimes we do see those old leaders kind of re-emerge again, but they'll never be, I don't think they'll be leaders again. Like they can have, okay rallies and stuff in there. But yeah, so one to keep an eye on there, just not great volume here, so nothing sort of too telling. But yeah, just a good lesson there. So sort of, so a lot of people were pretty excited about Tesla there in the last sort of year or two there, but I just knew that wasn't the stock to be playing, because that's sort of like, that was a leader of the last bull market, so it's not going to be the next one. COE, Cooper Energy, I did think this looked pretty interesting, Chris. Had a pretty decent move in here, some good volume on the up days in there, pretty light pullbacks there, some good volume all the way through here. Pretty much no selling in there. A little bit of a rally again. Not much selling in really there. That was probably only maybe 1 or 2 bars here of volume. But again, still pretty light here, still edging higher. So that whole thing has sort of tightened up here. Well, on that. I thought the weekly looked more interesting as well. It's sort of like this has had a pretty good, even though it was sort of in a bit of a downtrend there, has had some reasonable volume on this rally and then stayed pretty tight here so far. So even though it's a small now, probably not, I like to sort of trade above 30 cents there. Thought this looks pretty interesting there, COE. So that sort of energy sector there. So definitely want to keep an eye on it. I thought that looked kind of constructive there. Just a little too small for me personally. AGN, thought this was okay. It's had a pretty good run here. Just starting to overlap here. I think the only reason I grabbed this chart was I looked at this and thought, oh, it looks okay there. And sometimes it's really important to actually go and look at your time frames. So don't just look at the daily there. So you see here see how this has had a pretty good run. It's gone back to retest the high here. This is an area. Sometimes you see this on weekly. They'll go back and retest the high there. That's where they can find resistance there. And then look, maybe this sets up a cup here. You often sort of see that rounding off under the high. If it is going to go on, it'll probably have a breather here, ingest, and don't have too much volume there. But spend a bit of time before it goes there. So it is important when you're looking at your charts, not just to look at the one time frame there. So if you sort of see those sort of levels ahead there on a weekly there, you just got to sort of respect those there. But look, so far, not too much selling's come off in here. Volume's lighting off again in here. So let's get the feeling this stock might, it is a bit of an important level on the weekly. Might just go sideways for a bit there. So that, me personally, would rule that stock out completely. You just keep an eye on it, radar. Nanosonics there. Look, I don't particularly like the fact that this is a bit of a sideways orientation, Chris, but it is sort of, it's kind of building here now. I sort of we've got a few high lows sort of building in there. So just want to see some sort of stronger, setup here. It's a bit overlapping. It's a bit messy here. So the thing about sideways trends is McLaren says, at some point in there, you'll either basically break out, come back and sit on top of the previous high and then go again, or you break down, come back, hit the previous low and then roll off. So one of those two things are going to occur here. So definitely worth keeping an eye on there, just because it has been, like, this is a pretty long serving base here now. So use up quite a bit of time here. So they don't normally go this long without sort of having movement like that. Normally when you see a move like this, because it's sort of been trending down into the sideways orientation, it's like the XJO when the markets run up into the high, then it's gone through a long, that you're in favour of breaking out the same direction you came into that move. So in this case here, you're in favour of breaking down into this move here. But once it goes a long time, then you're like, well, hold on, this maybe something's, hasn't broken down here. This is a sideways move here. Maybe this is not a sideways congestion or a breather. This might be a basing pattern here. So it's why you sort of keep an eye on this one here now, just because I've spent a lot of time here potentially building a base. So yeah, it is one just to sort of keep an eye on there. Just not particularly strong or robust at this stage, but good to sort of come out of that. I think the last one on the list here was SPK, Spark. Again, I did notice a little VCP. I was trending down for quite a while. Did think this stock was a little bit oversold here, but then the whole thing tightened up here. And again, it did break here out of a little VCP on pretty good volume as well, and did go above the 50. So it meets our criteria as well. So again, I did see this trade here. We're just again, there's plenty of things that are going on in the marketplace. There's so many VCPs out there at the moment. So you and I were sort of been talking, so there's plenty going on there. I think we sort of Zero was on the list there, but I'm not sure if that was that had sort of tightened up here originally, popped out and then sort of come back here. It's been pretty messy, so it makes it hard to trade there. I think car sales has got a little bit of a beat. This whole thing's pretty tight here as well. Potential VCP in here though might may have broken down here. Who knows? But that's still pretty tight. I think Grain Corp there, bit of a VCP. That was the one that sort of sat on top of the weekly. I looked okay there. There was an ING. There might have been another little VCP in there. A bit of a pop, but it's still holding, a bit messy. I think INA was another one there. It was a VCP previously. I think IMD was one that's a little bit of VCP in here. Now potential cup and handle setting up here as well. So definitely worth keeping an eye on. Thought PEXA had a little bit of a VCP the other day. Come off the highs here, still below the 50, which was a bit of negative, but now did punch it, and then now we're back to have it. So, but this one's got a history of doing it. It's quite erratic normally, so it's not out of character for it. I think WiseTech as well, as the whole thing was sort of tightening up here. There's some of these leaders that have been tightening up here as well. I've sort of been holding up here, but they've been flashing back and forth a bit more. They've been a bit messier there, so probably a little bit suspect there. I thought Tyro is pretty interesting as well. That's that's had a pretty good move volume there. Pull back, no volume, had a little, again had another little rally here. So now we've sort of got a little potential VCP inside here. So this is our, we might need to use a bit more time on the side here, but this is maybe our B wave here. Maybe it's at around about 97.5 here. So if we go sideways for a few more days there, maybe we push on there, maybe we can break above that high then. But it's an interesting one there, sort of staying above the 50 so far. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, might have been RSG there a while ago. I think when it sort of broke, it was just kept hugging the 50 there. I need to come back to it further there. I might have been just sort of here, sort of just hugging, they got going and did break through it. I think then it sort of did hug it again here as well. So, that's plenty of trades there, Chris. Yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit messy, a bit more volatile there. Definitely feel like you've maybe got to either trade a little bit into heat, and then you get a day like today when the market's at 160 points, mate, you should be buying stocks that you like, or maybe the ones that have sort of come back in there, so so I did do a couple of stocks that I'd sort of sold a little bit in the heat. I added a couple back on today. It's just smaller parcels, still looking okay in the range, still have a tonner. So, but it's a pretty interesting market. It's but no, it's pretty good about it. There's some great lessons in there. I mean, just go through those quarterly lists. I mean, I'd go through half of those stocks there and just print them out, make some notes, and learn that. There's some gold in there.
That's probably a good point to note that we've just started the members list. So for those who want to receive the list at the same time that Gary receives the list, they can join and get that at the same time Gary does, along with a few other lists throughout the week. And with those great insights, breaking down. Well, just not quite the full secret sauce, but instead of people waiting for 4 o'clock to get this video on a Friday, as soon as the list is published and sent, so you get the list as soon as it's published. It's like hot off the press. As soon as those numbers come in, Gary gets the list. But that'll be going out to members as well through the YouTube channel. They can join down below. So we've only just started that.
What about the other? So just getting a little 30 list. Are you getting any other little extras as well, or just the 30?
There are some other extras on the other days of the week. There's the fundamental filters that you and I have talked about, and applying that, and then finding the top momentum and top launchpad companies.
Yeah, and
then also, so you and I, some of the reports that we look at is the leading themes, and then the companies within those themes. There's a report that we're sending out twice a week as well. Momentum leaders and launchpad. So I know that's one of your favorites that we've been sharing for quite a while now. So
so I like the fact that you sort of we look at the top 6 sectors and then the 6 stocks within those sectors there and see where the strength is there. That flowing through every week, that's quite revealing. So I love getting that. So I felt special until today. Now everyone's going to get it.
Well, they do have to join and be members. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I know that one was your favorite. So that was part of the impetus of really bringing it forward and going, okay, well, this is the one that you're getting a lot of value out of. So let's just make that. And we've narrowed it down to the top 300 because we're able to produce that list a little bit faster than if we wait for everything on the ASX. So that's what we're sharing.
So if you're trading momentum stocks and you don't buy for that list, you got rocks in your head.
Oh, I love that, Gary. Well, that's brilliant. Well, I know you've been benefiting from a long time and love sharing it and love the conversations we have about it. And to this point, that's kind of like today. So if you're momentum trading, you're not getting that list, well, you got rocks in your head. Thank you, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.